Hello, beautiful friends, heart-centered rebels. So happy to see you. I am Carrie Gavin, the host of Heart-Centered Rebel, and I am just sending out some invites to our friends in the community who may have missed that this live is happening. So wanted to just remind our friends that this is going on. If you're here, say hello. If you're jumping in late, make sure you say hi. I'm so excited for this training. This is one of my most favorite trainings on the planet. I've done this training a few times. All right, so let's see. Perfect. How's your day? What are you excited about? I'd love to know. Okay, so let's jump in. Hey, Jamie. Hey, Crystal. So happy you're here. Sorry you were covered up. I couldn't see you. Thank you for joining me live. And if you're catching the replay, super excited to have you as well. You can comment if you're in the community and you get this as the Facebook Live replay. You can comment with the live as if you were watching it, as if you were here live. And if you have the link to the replay, you can always jump in the group or message me if you have comments or questions or anything like that. So excited to be with you today. This is one of my favorite trainings. I haven't done this training in maybe 6 months, 8 months. It's one of my favorites. Hey, Amy, so happy to see you. But this training is sort of the crux of everything I believe in. It's combining the science of the brain with the intuition of the heart. It's understanding that sort of the manifesting and woo-woo stuff isn't necessarily just magical thinking. There's actually a process and a way that it works predictably, and that is through the power of our brain. So we're going to do this training in sort of 2 different parts. I just want to give you the lay of the land, and if you have questions or comments, you can pop them in the box. If you know anybody this would be a fit for, feel free to invite them in. So the way it's going to work is the first half of the training, we're going to be talking about sort of the psychology and the brain-based behavior. And then we're going to be talking about the energetics and the sort of universal principles and how we get the results that we want. Jumping in on phone, can't comment on computer for some reason. Let me see. I'm going to see if my computer has this also live. I just want to make sure. Okay. So, that's so weird, Jamie. I don't know. Okay, so yes, we're going to be talking about the psychology, and then we're going to be talking about the energetics of things. So, I have some notes, which is sort of out of character for me. Usually I just sort of channel whatever comes through, but this training is super important because I mentioned yesterday on, oh, it's me, not you. Okay, Jamie, thanks. I mentioned yesterday on the Facebook Live that I shared on my personal page that this is going to be a training that I am going to welcome you into as if you were a private client. This is not a training where I'm going to sort of half deliver and then, you know, make an invitation for you to go deeper, although I will be doing that. But this training really will give you value and concrete things you can actually understand so that you can start making changes in your life and really start to rewire your brain and your energy for whatever it is that you desire. So if that feels good for you, let's dive in. Okay, so the first thing I want to speak to is how there's, you know, a lot of conversation around action, action, action. We live in a very action-focused society. We live in an era where it's just do, 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 do. And I am so much more of the belief that we need to focus on being first. So our successes are really about 80% strategy and 20% action. So the strategy piece is really what you're believing, what you're thinking, what's really going on inside and what you believe is possible, right? If we don't believe something is possible, it's going to be really hard for us to get behind whatever it is that we want to get into and take the actions to do that. So I'm always talking about inspired action is very different than just that hustle grit action, right? Because when we are in alignment with what it is that we actually want, we want to take those action steps, right? So I want you to think about your brain as if it is a computer. If you have been in my community for a while, you have heard this analogy a million times. And if you're new to the community, welcome, and you will get to know that this is one of the simplest ways to think about how we get the results that we want. And it's one of my favorite ways to share it with my clients. So if we think about our brain as if it's a computer program and it's running this operating system, just like our phones, just like our computers, right? So this installation of software was installed in us without us even knowing. Okay, this was installed by our parents, by our society, by our community, by everybody in our world when we were a kid. So as we were observing the world, we were getting feedback, right? We were getting feedback that was saying, this is the food you eat, this is the language you speak, this is what's acceptable, this is what's not acceptable. And we started creating a baseline for ourselves in this software that was from all of our experiences that told us what was okay, right? So we installed this software, and the way that it was installed was sort of like, the way I like to think about it is when you're a baby and you have a soft spot, the part of your brain is not closed, right? I mean, the part of your skull is not closed, right? So we have two parts of the mind or the brain, the conscious and the subconscious, right? And the conscious mind is only 5% of our brain-based activity. 95% is subconscious. So to me, because I think in pictures, our subconscious mind is sort of like the symbol of a soft spot for a baby. Your subconscious mind is the thing behind all the automatic behavior in our life. Breathing, making, blinking, breathing, swallowing, blood, cleaning, detoxifying, making new cells, all of those things. Your subconscious mind is doing all of that for you. Just really amazing, right? I think in pictures too, Crystal says. Yes. So when I think about the subconscious mind, I remember that in that soft spot, there's nothing saying in a baby like, take this in, don't take this in, take this in, don't take this in. Your subconscious mind is the exact same way. It's just an open funnel for everything we're experiencing, and we're taking it in and we're processing information and we're deciding what to do with it. Hey, Reese. And we're saying, okay, this is going into the subconscious, which means this is going into my behavior, and I'm going to execute on this. It cannot reason. Your subconscious mind cannot decide whether this is good or bad or right or wrong or helpful or not helpful. It is just executing. That's all that it does. So it takes a behavior. Hey, Anna. It takes a behavior and it says, hey, you want me to go do this thing? I'm going to go do this thing, right? The conscious mind is where we start to include reason and judgment and interpretations and all of those things. So that's why we speak the same language our parents speak. We eat the same food our parents prepare for us. We go through the same routines all the time because we have learned from a very young age what those habits, what that software is, what that mental programming is. And it just becomes our normal, right? Have you ever had the experience where you're talking with somebody and you tell them something that feels like just an automatic truth to you and they challenge that, right? So for me, I heard this with my kids. My daughter had a friend over and she said, oh, dads go to work, but moms stay home. They were playing. They were super little. And I was like, so interesting. That's just your perception, right? And my daughter was like, no, they don't. Moms go to work too. So it's so interesting that like what we perceive in the world, we don't even actually question, right? And this is one of the greatest opportunities when we become aware that we get to choose what kind of mental software we're running, right? So this operating system is going on every minute of every day. Your brain is taking in about 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day, but 90% of those are the same thoughts as yesterday. Isn't that crazy? We are so rooted in habit, and our subconscious is really good at that, and that's fantastic. But what's not fantastic is when those habits are not serving us. right? So what happens is we get up the same way, we brush our teeth the same way, we get coffee the same way, we drink our coffee the same exact way out of our favorite mug, we drive to work the same way, we talk to the same people, we have the same thing for lunch, we go home, we have dinner, we do the whole kid bedtime bath, whatever thing, and then we go to bed and then we start over the next day, right? Habitual behavior, because we are creatures of habit, and that serve us really well for things like walking, reading, talking, communicating. Those are really great. I don't have to think about breathing while I'm doing this training, right? All those things are fantastic. But when we are in a habit that we want to break, we have to bring awareness to it first. And we have to acknowledge that, oh, this is something that I'm doing automatically, and I need to retrain my brain to do something different, right? So we need to install a new operating system. We need to upgrade our beliefs. We need to upgrade what we expect for ourselves. We need to lean into possibility and get out of the conditioning of this is all I've ever done, so this is all that's available to me. One of my favorite things to do with my clients is to help them understand that the possibility of whatever it is that they desire is truly infinite. There is no limit to anything that we can have, anything we can do, anything we can be. It is just the limits of our mind. And almost always it is subconscious and we don't even know we're attached to it. Craziness, right? So if you're here, then I'm willing to bet that you believe your thoughts have something to do with creating your reality, right? So if you had the same thoughts that you had yesterday, the same thoughts today, there's a good chance you're going to be able to predict the future, because if the same thoughts you're thinking over and over and over again produce the same results, well, then I'm sure you'd agree it's pretty easy to see that a year from now, we're going to have the same life. Now, this can feel super overwhelming when we start to acknowledge if our thoughts create our beliefs create our actions, and our actions create our results. It can feel like, oh my gosh, I have to manage all my thoughts. I have to manage every single thing. And I don't want to think a negative thing, because if I think a negative thing, then I'm going to slow down. Take a deep breath. That's not how it works. Our positive beliefs and positive thoughts are far more powerful than our negative ones, even though it doesn't feel like that, right? We're starting a new habit, so it can feel like it's really crazy, but it's not. When you become aware of this, I remember for me, when I first watched The Secret 15 years ago and read all these books, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't think a bad thing. If I think a bad thing, something bad's going to happen. No. While time is an illusion, we do have the grace of time. And this manifestation process, the way that it works is there is a gap of time. Are there instant manifestations? Sure. But 99% of the time, there is a bit of a gap, right? Which is really fantastic news for us, because we can manage that energy differently. So one of the most important things when recognizing the thoughts we're thinking is our environment. So when we look around our environment, I'm willing to bet that you've had the experience where you see something and it elicits an emotion in you, right? Yesterday on the training the Facebook Live I did, I was talking about the one skill that can create more money, more impact, more connection, more sales, whatever it is for you that you want, is emotional intelligence. Some people call this emotional awareness. It doesn't matter what you call it, but if you don't have the tools to manage your emotions, then you are at the mercy of your subconscious programming. Because we will come up against things every single day that are going to create an emotional response, but it's what we do with that response that makes the difference. So when we look around our environment, if we're feeling stressed or anxious or worried, and we get feedback from the outside world that, yes, this is how you should feel, it's really difficult for us to change that without a conscious decision and without support to make a change, right? So the way we think, the way we act, the way we feel, that creates our personality, right? That's who we are. We say, oh, that person's super happy. Oh, that person's super positive. That person's a helper. That person's a healer. That person's always depressed. That person's such a Debbie Downer, right? It's because of the thoughts that we're thinking and the feelings that we have, that creates our actions, right? Hey, Mary. So we have to be aware of the thoughts we're thinking, the actions we're taking, and really create, hi, Mary, really create this sort of skill set where we can manage our emotions so that we can choose consciously what we want to think, so we can have the feeling we want and take the action we want to get the result that we want, right? It's all connected. That's the way that it is. But here's the thing. Whatever is running on our subconscious, it doesn't matter how many times we say we want it. If our subconscious programming, if our paradigm, if our belief system, if our lens of the world is not congruent with what we say we want, the subconscious will win out every single time. Now, I know that that can feel really overwhelming and be like, well, how do I change it? And I promise you there are ways to change it for sure. But we have to acknowledge it first, right? We have to say, okay, so have you ever had the experience where you're like, I'm going to start a new workout routine. I'm going to make $5,000. I'm doing the thing, right? And then you are a few days in and you fall off, or you don't do it, or you don't want to get on a phone call, or you don't want to make the investment, or you come up with all these reasons why it's not a good time. That's your subconscious programming. So we have a innate, built-in protection in our brain, which is really good for us when we were cavemen, right? It was, don't go into the dark, cave, because there might be a saber-toothed tiger in there that's going to eat you and you're going to die. And so we have this chemical cocktail that gets released in our body from our brain that is saying, you are in fight or flight. You are in a really scary position. So I am going to release all these chemical cocktails in your body to make you sweat, make your heart rate increase, make you sweat so you don't taste good, make your heart rate increase so you have adrenaline pumping through your body, make everything else in your body work for your survival. But the problem is, we don't live in that time period anymore. So our brain is still very primitive. Our brain is still perceiving the outside world fearful things like making an offer, making an investment in ourselves, and signing up for a coach or a mentor, or signing up for a program, or making, something in the world that you want to help people with, or saying, I'm going to do a scary thing. Hey, Kim. When you do that, your brain releases all these chemical cocktails that says, holy cow, this is fear, this is fear, this is fear. We've never done this before. This feels out of our routine. We are habitual creatures and we want to stay in habit. So no, we don't want to do this. We don't want to do this. But you don't actually think that. I mean, you might. Sometimes we think that, right? But usually your brain is so clever, it will come up with reasons like, we can't afford it. It's not the right time. I have so many things on my plate. I'll do it later. Right? It's crazy. It's crazy because this mental programming that was installed when we were kids is so strong that we've been operating unconsciously, half asleep in our life for years. And when we start to wake up and we start to come out of Groundhog Day and we start to say like, I'm just not fulfilled. I feel like I should be happy. I feel like I should be grateful, but I'm not. What am I missing? Your brain's saying, go back to comfort, go back to comfort, right? And if you've been here, maybe you've heard me say before that I really believe that fear comes in two flavors, rational and irrational. Rational fear is, hey, there's a train coming down the track. Don't go on the track. You're going to die. Thank you, brain. I love you for keeping me safe. Irrational is, I want to make a change in my life to live a more fulfilled, happy, purposeful, intentional life. And I've never done it before. And there's no promises. And I feel like I don't know if I can do it. I'm not going to do it. You're not going to die with that, right? But our brain is so tricky. So our habits are wired in through our behavior. And it just becomes automatic. And the way that we learn our habits is through repetition. which is really good news because it means we can also learn through repetition to upgrade our mental software, right? When you learned how to ride a bike, when you learned how to read, when you learned how to write your name, I am willing to bet you didn't do it one time and then say, oh, it's not for me. I can't do this. It's too hard. Here's the difference in having support. Somebody's in the corner with you saying, you're doing great. You're doing great. Just one foot in front of the other. Just try again. Just get back on the bike. Just pick up the pen. Right? We treat children with such compassion and such encouragement, but then somehow when we're adults, we totally abandon that and we let our brain dictate everything. Which it's really just trying to keep us safe. You know, there's a lot of conversation in sort of the personal development field that like the ego is bad and that you should kill your ego and whoa, I don't think we have to go that far. I think we just have to acknowledge that we did the best we could with what we knew. Our parents did the best they could with what they knew. But now we're starting to come into a different time where we get to choose on purpose, right? We get to say, this actually doesn't feel like all of my best life. What do I actually want? And can I give myself permission to feel into that, right? So your brain has neural pathways that fire and wire all the time, every time you have a thought, 1,000,000 times a second. And it creates these grooves in your brain. Think of it like a highway, right? So when you have these grooves in your brain and they're going over and over and over and over, they're pretty consistent. They're pretty carved in, right? That's why you drive to a store, you drive to work, and you're like, how did I even get here? Right? Has that ever happened to you? You're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know. Like, weird. It's because it's so unconscious for you. It is so into your subconscious mind. You don't have to consciously think about it because we only have 5% of our brain to use. Crystal says yes. 5% of our brain is all we have to make a change, to be aware, to be conscious. That is a very little number compared to all the other things that are going in the background without us knowing, right? So sometimes if we want to create a new story, a new experience, a new desire, a new habit, we have to do what I call starving the story. When we starve the story, we intentionally choose our focus for the things that feel good, for the things that we want, and we ignore the things that we no longer want in our life. So starving the story means I'm actually going to tell my neural pathways by choosing my focus to focus my attention on this thing over here. And what's ultimately going to happen, because science now tells us that the brain can change. A long time ago, they thought the brain was just hardwired and that was it. That is not the case, right? Starve the story, mofo, Jamie says. Yeah, right? When we starve that story and we start feeding this story, we actually rewire our brain. So the grooved out roads that are so built in start to become non-existent. And when we move our focus and we start to feed the story we want, new neural pathways are designed. New neural pathways are grooved into our brain. And the other ones disappear. They die off. They're no longer needed. There's no energy going to that. And without energy, things die. Right? Really good news. Starving the story is one of the greatest tools I have ever created for my... I didn't create it. Hey, Taylor. Starving the story is one of the greatest tools I've shared with my clients. I didn't create it. It just exists. I just unlocked it, right? So sometimes I like to call this, the way that I have framed it for myself and for my clients is to use intentional ignorance. I am intentionally ignoring the things that don't feel good, and I'm leaning into the things that do. And this, at the crux of it, is the work that I do with my clients. We are no longer feeding the things that don't feel good. Don't feed the fears. Don't feed the blame, the shame, the guilt, whatever. We want to feed the things that we actually desire. We want to feed the things that feel good, that bring us joy. Because when we bring ourselves joy intentionally, we raise our energy, we raise our vibration, we change our frequency. We'll get to that in a minute. So, Kim says, I'm having a really rough week, and this is helping me think differently about things that have happened. Thank you. Oh, Kim, I'm so happy. This is so important for you, and I'm not just you, but all of us, right? And I'm so happy that this is resonating for you. There's no accident that you're seeing it right now, because when we have a desire in our heart, which, perfect example, you've had a week that didn't feel good. So by the very nature that you had a week that didn't feel good, you created the experience to feel the opposite, right? We are always in contrast. If this is what I don't want, I know what I do want. Now that is a habit we have to train ourselves for too. Recognizing so many times clients will come to me and say, well, I don't even know what I want. And one of the greatest places to start is, okay, well, tell me what you don't want. Because when we know what we don't want, we know what we do want. So this is no accident that you found this, Kim. No accident that you're here listening to this, because I want to remind you that you have the power to change anything in your life in a minute. You really do. It's just being aware of it, right? And being committed to the change more than the comfort, right? Brene Brown talks all the time about choosing courage over comfort. And I just couldn't get behind it anymore. I believe that so strongly in my heart. I have always done courageous things when I've wanted to stay in my comfort because I wanted the upgrade more. I wanted the power. I wanted to know that I could change my experience. I wanted to know that there was possibility. I wanted to know that there was something better. And I could only do that by choosing courage over comfort, right? So I'm so happy you're here, and I'm so happy this is helpful for you. So let's talk about it. So the magic makers in our life, the people that have really been influential, Martin Luther King, the Wright brothers, Edison, Henry Ford, Einstein, all these people, right? They had a vision in their head that they were far more committed to than what people in their environment were saying. And can you imagine a world where people didn't follow that, right? Steve Jobs, my entire work situation would not exist the way it does if it weren't for him. And here's the thing I want to remind you of. When you have clarity on what you do want, and you're committed to that despite the external circumstances, despite the people that are telling you that you're crazy, despite the people telling you what you should do, right? You start creating that experience because your brain does not know the difference between a real or imagined situation. It responds the same way, which is really good news for us. Because when we start mentally rehearsing what we would like to experience, say in the future, right? We are no longer using our brain as a record of the past. We're using it as a map to the future. We don't need to know all the steps. We just need to put one foot in front of the other and take one step at a time. And I know it can feel like, I don't even know what that is. And that's why having support is really helpful. But you do know what it is. You do know what it is. Sometimes it feels scary. We got to be brave. But you do know what that next thing is, right? So these people that have had a vision of something that they really desired in their life and their world and whatever it was, they were so committed to the vision. They believed it with everything in their heart that their brain started making connections so that those things came to be. And your brain and my brain are no different. So what we are experiencing is a direct correlation with the thoughts that we're thinking, the feelings that we're having, the emotions that we experience. Because your brain will always match your beliefs. Whatever you are looking for evidence of, you will find. There is a part of our brain called the reticular activating system. And this part of our brain is just a matchmaker. That is legit its only job. It is going through all the thousands of bits of information every second that you're taking in. And it's saying, here's the lens we're seeking. If it fits through this, we let her see it. And if it doesn't, we're disregarding it. That's why when you see When you decide you want to get a car, when you decide you want to get some kind of, I don't know, jacket or whatever, you see it everywhere. It's like the Facebook algorithm, right? When you start thinking about something and you start seeing it everywhere, that's Facebook saying like, hey, you said you wanted to see this. Let me show you more. Let me show you more. Let me show you more. It's the same in our brain. We have part of our brain that is doing that very thing. It is saying, you believe this, and we are going to give you evidence to keep believing that so you don't feel like a crazy person, right? Our brain will always match our beliefs. So when you decide you want to have a white car and you start seeing white cars everywhere, that's because your reticular activating system said, hey, she wants to see white cars. Make sure she sees them. The reality is there's no any more. What? No, there are not more white cars in the world. It's just that your awareness has been unlocked, right? So that's why this is really good news, because when we start to investigate what are the thoughts we're thinking, what are the beliefs that we have, we get to actually craft what we desire, and our brain works on our behalf. Our brain has this built-in system that's going to say, yes, we're going to give you more evidence of that. Yes, we're going to keep going with that. Yes, we're going to keep seeking that. And things that feel absolutely crazy, like flying or the light bulb or whatever, when you are so committed to the vision, your brain literally wires itself to find evidence of that, or it racks through all the information that you have bypassed, and it will whisper to you, hey, remember you saw that Facebook post? Hey, remember that you connected with that person who said they have this thing? That's how it works, which is unbelievable, right? Can you believe that we are built in with this system? That's also your intuition, just a whole nother start of it. So when we become emotionally invested in our vision, our brain starts matching our beliefs, and we start living into that experience. And literally, you are vibrating, you are an energetic field, you are shifting the energy in your body as if it has already happened. And those things start to become attracted into your life, right? So this isn't woo-woo. This isn't like magical thinking. This is legit science. So you've probably heard me say this story before too, if you've been around me for any length of time. And if you're new, welcome. You'll hear this a bunch. I have always been fascinated with human behavior. I've always been fascinated with psychology, the way that people work, why things work the way they do. And one of the clearest pictures of this for me was when I was learning how to drive standard. I just couldn't get it. I just couldn't get it. And my dad took me out driving, and we were driving, and God bless him, it was start and stop and start and stop and stall out, and, you know, lots of laughter, because I think laughing is like my favorite thing to do. And that's what I do when I'm frustrated. Not always, but I try to. And finally he said, just pull over, just pull over. So I pulled over, and he said, this is what's happening in the engine. When you push the clutch in, this is what happens. When you push the gas, this is what happens. This is why it has to work the way that it does. And there was something in my brain that clicked, and I said, oh, I get it. I get what you mean. And I literally drove. That was it. I knew after that I could understand it in my brain. And so that's how I've been fascinated with human psychology and the results that we get and the success that we want and all the things. That's how I created my successful photography business for 13 years. That's how I run my coaching practice. It's all the same, right? I have to understand why things are happening the way they are in order for me to sort of get behind it. And yes, there is a need for belief, but if I don't have the tools, it just doesn't work for me. That's why when I first discovered the law of attraction, I was like, yes, this is it. I've always known this to be true. But also what? Right? So I really had to dive into the specifics and the psychology of it and the energetics of it. And, you know, I really wanted to know why. Psychocybernetics is one of my favorite books in the all-time history of the planet. It is fascinating. If you haven't read it, I highly, highly recommend it. I recommend it to all my clients. I think every person on the planet should read that book. I continuously read that book all the time. I have it on audiobook and I have it in print, and I love that book so much. I can't even tell you. but I needed to know why. So all this science stuff was making sense to me because then I started understanding the energetics of who we are as electromagnetic humans. Psychocybernetics is the book, Jamie. I can post a link to it below once I'm off the live. It's great. It's all about self-image and what you believe and how you see yourself. And it's amazing. So I can't recommend it enough. So once I discovered how these things worked on a science level, I was able to quickly correlate, oh, right, because we are energetic human beings. We are beings, right? Think about when somebody dies, right? When they have a heart attack and their heart stops and their brain activity stops, the doctors shock them. They use electricity. Why? Because we have electricity. We have energy running through our bodies. That is the only difference, right? Our body is not who we are. It is the energy of who we are. So when I started to understand that our brain is pretty much just a switching station, and we can hack the system, we can upgrade the system anytime we want, we get to decide what kind of software gets installed. I was like, of course our energy matters. Of course the thoughts we think changes the vibration literally on a cellular level, how fast my cells are vibrating, what emotions I'm experiencing in my body, because I'm deciding from a frequency, from a physics standpoint, right? So I'm like, oh, right. So that like high vibe feeling of like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy. This is so awesome. It's a story I'm telling myself, right? Everything's a story. And so when I realized, oh, yeah, so everything I'm thinking is my conscious mind. What's running in the background is my subconscious mind. But the connection between those two is my energy. I get it. Does that make sense? So, why does it matter? I'm just checking over my notes. How are you guys doing? You hanging in there? Do you have questions? This is the biggest difference between being in victimhood and being in personal responsibility. When I actually understood everything in my life was happening for me, not to me. I wasn't just getting all this stuff coming into me. I was actively playing a role in every single thing I was doing, experiencing, thinking. The game changed, right? The game changed because I was like, oh, if I created this, I can uncreate it. I can recreate it. I can choose differently now, right? I don't have to make it mean anything. So yesterday I was talking about all this understanding around emotional intelligence and emotional awareness. And the only reason we create this suffering of this is a bad day, this is a bad experience, this client's a nightmare, I don't have enough money, I'm a terrible person, I'm a failure, is because I am applying my own meaning to that thing. Suffering is when we think we should be somewhere else. But when we really get everything is happening exactly the way that it should, Byron Katie says it happened the way that it should because it did. If it wasn't supposed to work that way, it wouldn't have, right? When I really get that, then it puts me in power. It puts me in choice, which is huge. So we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and everything is energy. So the thoughts that we think create the feelings that we have, create the actions that we take, create the results that we get. It's pretty systematic, but it feels like, holy cow, I don't know what to do with that. Don't worry. It's totally fine. It's one thing at a time, right? So if you think about a TV or a radio station in your car, there are a million different channels, right? Especially today. And you can't be sitting in your car mad at your radio station because 104.1 is not playing the song that you want on 94.5. You're in the wrong station, my friend. You can't get there from there. You can't feel that. You can't hear the song on 94.5 that's playing on 104.1 or whatever I said, because you literally have tuned into the wrong frequency. But our thoughts and our emotions are frequencies too. The only reason we have emotion is to give us feedback for what vibration we're in. Isn't that so freeing? Because it doesn't mean I'm a bad person, I'm a failure, this isn't meant for me, I can't do this, I'm never going to make it, I'm always going to be broke. Those are all just interpretations. You can take that as feedback and say, wow, these experiences that I'm having right now, they're causing me to ask for more things. They're causing me to show up differently. They're causing me to say yes to things that I might be a little bit afraid of, but I'm willing to do it because I don't want to stay here anymore. Or you can play the victim card and say, I'm a failure, it's never going to work. But how's that working for you? It's not going to get you out of there, right? You can't struggle your way to happy. You can't suffer your way to happy. You can't suffer along the journey. And then when you get to the goal, or somehow you get out of your own way and the thing that you desire comes into your life and you're like, okay, now I'm happy. You can't have an unhappy journey and get to a happy destination. It just doesn't work that way. It's insane. That's why I think it's insane that people work a terrible job they hate for 40 years and they think retirement's going to be awesome. You hated the journey. What? How could you possibly think retirement's going to be awesome? Which is why some people get to retirement and they're like, I better go back to work. I don't know. I'm not happy. It's an inside job, friends, right? So when we want to change our energy, we need to create new pathways in our brain. And our brain doesn't know the difference between what is real and what is imagined. And here's how you know that firsthand. When you watch a movie, and it's a suspenseful one, and the person's getting chased, I don't watch these kind of movies, but let's go with it. And you're wondering what's going to happen. Does your heart race? Do your hands sweat? Do you get nervous? Do you find yourself tensing up? Do you want to cover your eyes? You are not actually being chased, right? You're sitting on your couch. But your brain is releasing all of the same chemical cocktails as if you were. But you were sitting on your couch. Crazy, right? Good news for us. That means we can hack the system the other way. If I want to experience more peace, more joy, more love, more connection, more freedom, and it's not my current circumstance in the 3D world, I just have to connect more to that and apply intentional ignorance to the fear. And slowly, slow is relative, right? Could be 5 minutes, an hour, a day, doesn't matter. You will start to see evidence of what you were giving your attention to, because what we focus on expands. What you appreciate appreciates, right? You want more things to appreciate in your life? Get your butt in gratitude. It is the fastest way to get there. Crystal says, yes, I can't watch those movies. Too much anxiety. I'll stick with the Golden Girls. Yes, sister, you are my people. I am all about the fun, the joy, the silly, the happy, right? Some people say I put my head in the sand because I don't watch the news. I haven't watched the news in 5 years. Sometimes I'll see things on Facebook, but I legit don't know things that are happening in the world. And for me, it's self-preservation. I'm too much of an empath to see that. I can't go down that rabbit hole. It sends my entire energy off the rails. And for me, I am so protective of the energy that I am around and put myself in. Me either, Crystal says. I can't. That's not for me. That's the rebel in me, friends, right? So the question is, can you believe in a reality that you don't actually see? Can you believe in your dreams more than your fears? Can you say yes to changing the environment within you first? Kim says, I don't watch the news either for the same reason. Of course, Jamie says, exactly. You're my people. I love you all. We're just in this together, right? So the question is, can you root in to what you desire? And more importantly, can you give yourself permission to want what you want? This is a huge thing, you guys. Let me just say right now, you get to want what you want. I don't care if you want a vacation that's $20,000. I don't care if you want a new pair of shoes that are $5. I don't care what it is that you want. You want a successful business. You want to help people. You want to play with your kids more. Whatever. You get to want what you want. Just for the very reason you want it. There is so much shame around, I don't want, so what I'm looking for, materialistic things. Or what if I want this car? What will people say to me? Or what if I want... No, just no. You get to want what you want because you have the desire in your heart. If you have the desire in your heart, by the law of the universe, you have the ability to create that in your life. You may not know it yet. You may not know how yet, but it's the way that it works. If you have the desire, then you also have the way to the desire. Who cares what people say? That's my girl, Kim. You know it. That's what being a heart-centered rebel is all about. It's rebelling against all the shoulds, all the social norms, all the expectations from everybody else. It is allowing your heart to lead, right? And this is why I believe so strongly in this work, in helping people that want to do the same thing, is because I had to lead myself through that first. I had to lead myself through rebelling against everybody that was telling me all the things. I have my master's in education. I was divorced at 30. I had an almost 2-year-old and an almost 4-year-old, and people were saying, just go back to be a teacher. It's safe. You'll get a 9-to-5. I was 3 years into a photography business that is a very luxury, high-end option for most people. And at the time, I couldn't afford myself. But you know what? I wasn't going back to a 9-to-5. I just wasn't. And you know how hard it was to stay in my own lane when I had everybody in my world and I know they were coming from a place of love and they really wanted to make sure that I was safe? I get it, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And so I was willing to struggle. I was willing to be in the trenches. I was willing to go first. And thank God I did. It was 13 years. It was amazing. Led me to coaching, right? 5 years into that, I started coaching and mentoring other people and running their creative businesses. It doesn't matter what you do for a craft. It matters what you believe. It matters what's in your head. It matters what's in your heart. It matters if you have someone in your corner saying, yeah, you can do this. Yeah. Kim said, I learned early on in motherhood that I knew deep down what was best for me and my daughter. Took advice, but usually never put into action. Yeah. Here's the truth, you guys. You've probably heard me say this too. You know the truth by the way it feels, right? You know the truth by the way it feels, but we are so impacted by the outside world. And everybody wants to have an opinion. P.S. Nobody's living your life. So they don't actually get to say unless you let them. So why does it matter what your energy is? Because when your energy is all out of whack, you're making decisions from emotional places. This is why managing your emotions, managing your mindset, managing your belief system, and more specifically, managing your energy is the only catalyst to get to what you actually want. Catalyst, is that the word I want to say right now? It's the only tools that you need, right? Because the way, when you're operating in your life from a emotionally, I don't want to say insecure, but emotionally unaware place, you are operating from a place where you're making rash decisions. You're being so involved in taking things personally, and you're not managing, the overall picture. You're managing your emotional response to it, which almost always takes you out of the game because you're making it personal. Nothing has meaning but the meaning I give it, right? That's super freeing if we let it. If we let it be freeing, So when we start to memorize emotions, it's really easy to fall into the trap of, I already did that. I already know that. That's not for me. That's unconscious, right? You've integrated into an unconscious level where it doesn't actually serve you. So if you want your brain and your energy to be in line with your desires, you got to wake up. Me too. This is an evolving lifelong journey, right? This isn't like you just get to the road and get to the end and that's it. This is, constantly new things, new desires, new challenges, new whatever, but it's being brave. It's living. It's showing up in your life and doing something. And here's the thing. We're in the minority. Most people don't want to do this. They want to go to the job they hate. They want to have the same routine. They want to have the same predictability. They're too scared to do this. And I get it. They're conditioned just like the rest of us. Right? The devil you know is better than the devil you don't. Except it's not. Right? Most people are not doing this work. But imagine the ripple effect. Right? Imagine the ripple effect in your family, in your communities, in your network. Of saying yes to yourself, of yes to your joy, of yes to saying, I'm willing to go all in. I want to live. I want to show up. I want to experience this world. I want to create my life by design. Because by default, by doing that, you give other people permission to do the same. Because that's the thing. Like when they see you and they see me, if you can do it, I can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. If I can do it, we can do it. Right? That's what it is. That's something I've believed from the very beginning of this journey. And so many of my coaches say the same thing. I have invested in myself over and over and over and over and over. Why? Because I know I can't say my own stuff. And it's my commitment to myself to keep evolving and keep growing so I can keep evolving and keep growing my people too. But I know that my brain is always going to match what I believe. And my energy and my number one thing, like the number one thing I really help people with is trusting themselves, believing in possibility, and knowing that anything is possible. I guess those are 3 things. How's my math? But it's really trusting yourself and feeling good, right? Because feeling good is the thing that gets you into everything else, right? Have you ever been stressed out about trying to figure out an answer, trying to get a problem solved, trying to get the thing done? And then you go for a walk and all of a sudden it comes to you. You're in the shower and all of a sudden it comes to you. Yeah, because you have literally with the stress hormones and the stress chemicals in your body, on a cellular level, you have cut off the creative part of your brain. Because your brain is saying, we are in stress right now. We are in fight or flight mode. We don't need to be creative. When you're like, I'm going to get this answer. I'm going to figure this out. No. Abraham Hicks talks all the time about being a cork held underwater. When you let go of that cork, it's just going to float. My coach and mentor, Jim Fortin, says, your default setting is happy. You just got to choose to not be unhappy. Right? This is like basic. Babies come out happy. Babies are happy unless they are hungry, they need to be changed, or they want to be held. And then we get this mental software installed that are all kinds of other people's stories. And then we think it's the truth. And we do our whole life that way. Until we start to get curious and say like, I don't know if that's actually true. I don't know if that's for me, right? So yes, the law of attraction, real thing. Universal principles, real things. Law of polarity, real thing. Law of compensation, real thing. Far more real than all the stories in our head. But years ago, the elders of society didn't want us to know this stuff. Why? Because they would lose power. But we are in a totally different game. We are in a totally different life now. We create our reality by the thoughts we think, the feelings we have, the actions we take. But it starts with what energy you are literally infusing in your life. Right? It's like, it seems so simple, but it's so hard when you don't know all the rules to the game. So having a handle on your emotional awareness and understanding the way to effectively and efficiently communicate in your life, whether it's to yourself or your partner or your kids, it will change the game for you. I swear to you, it makes more money. It gives you clients. It unlocks everything. Because you understand that you're making interpretations based on the paradigm that is installed. And we can change that. We can upgrade that anytime we want. Right? How are you guys doing? We are just wrapping up. I want to see if you have any questions or if I missed anything. So here's what I want to say. Warrior to Warrior is a 2-week intensive program that I have the doors open to right now. It's a 2-week intensive with 6 trainings. Hey, Tracy. With 6 trainings and live one-on-one or live coaching support with 3 weeks of follow-up support. Okay, so it's a 5-week program, but it's a 2-week intensive. It's based around my TIDES framework, which is around truth-telling, imagination, decision, expansion, success. It is the work that I do with my one-on-one clients in a group container. This intensive has the power to change your life. I don't say that lightly because I've done it with myself. I've done it with my clients. I see it over and over and over again. When we are walking around without clarity, it is really difficult to get results. So Warrior to Warrior is a program that allows you to emotionally manage yourself. It is a program to get out of laying awake at 2 a.m, wondering all the things. How am I going to do this? I want to manifest this. I want this job. I want this life, but I don't know what I'm doing. And how do I get there? And what's my brain thinking? And blah, blah, blah. 2, I am the warrior. I am the warrior that shows up, that does the brave thing, that has support, that takes the action, that is control, that leads herself. That is what this is designed about, that this is designed for. It is for the woman that is going to have all the successes that she wants, and she's going to be able to have the tools to navigate the setbacks. It's human psychology, it's universal principles, it's all the things wrapped up into this quick intensive with 3 weeks of additional support for your integration. Because here's what I know to be true. This is not an information problem. You can go on Google and learn about psychology. You can go on Google and learn about universal principles. You can figure out how the brain works. You can understand universal laws. You can do all those things. But the power is in transformation and integration. And transformation happens when you integrate the program, when you integrate the content, when you integrate and have support and have somebody saying, let me mirror to you what's coming up and let's do something different. I would only offer this in a way that I felt was the most supportive to my people for the most amount of results. The people that have taken this program have done life-changing things for themselves. You have all the answers you need for everything you want in your life right now. You just might need help accessing it. That's what this program does. If you know me, you know that I am against cookie cutter approaches. I don't believe in fitting in a box. I think it's the quickest way to feeling defeated and out of power. But I do believe in having a framework that is custom to you. For creatives that want to impact the world, their family, whatever kind of leader you are, whether you lead a team on your 9 to 5, or you lead your daughter, or you lead your family, or you are a leader in your business. If you can't lead yourself emotionally, you will continuously struggle in this ongoing, roller coaster. But when you go from being a worrier to a warrior, you know that you can bet on yourself because you have the tools and you have a community and you have someone supporting you saying, yes, you're doing it. Yes, it's right. Yes, right. Great. Do it. The world needs it. Whatever it is, right? So people have started businesses, left 9 to 5s. Crystal says, chills. I just said those words yesterday about if you can't lead yourself. That is my MO. I lead myself so I can lead my other sisters around me. I am not interested in being a leader that walks way out in front of my people. I am interested in being a leader that locks arms with my people and walks beside you for the journey. It is the only way I've ever known how to do anything in my life. That's how I was growing up. I was always the friend people came to. I'm still the friend people can network. My network is low. Uh-oh. Can you guys still see me? I hope. So here's the deal. Warrior to Warrior is on early bird for one more day. It expires tomorrow at midnight, Saturday at midnight. It is $888 if you pay in full, or it's $222 if you want to pay installments. There is a VIP option. If you want to do the VIP, it means you have specific one-on-one support from me. Send me a message if you're interested. If you want to do this, we can get you set up. But here's what I want you to know. You have everything you need in you right now. And if somebody is trying to tell you that you need their one thing to get the magic thing, to get it dialed in, to get the result, it's not for you. I would never try to push you into something that I think has the answer. I want you to bet on yourself because that's the way that I know we create success. When we bet on ourselves, we can't unfeel that, right? When we bet on ourselves and we lead ourselves, we show other people what's possible. So if you want to upgrade your experience, if you want to collapse time and do this faster and get results faster, send me a message and I would love to have you in this program. If you know anybody else that it would be valuable for, send them this training. But here's what I know. There are no accidents, and you did not attract this into your life just by chance. What you do with it is ultimately up to you. But I can tell you, for the women that started their own businesses that didn't even know they wanted it, that got promotions, that got pregnant, that got engaged, like this is holistic support. It's saying you need to tell yourself the truth about what you want and give yourself permission to want what you want and dream again and come back to your heart and remember what it's like to imagine with that childlike wonder and make the decision that you are committed, that you are getting the result, that you are doing the thing because you are a no matter what kind of person, because you're tired of the struggle and you're willing to go all in for yourself. And then you allow yourself to expand into that next version and you allow yourself to actually receive the vision that you have for yourself. What a magical gift to yourself. Can you imagine what that would feel like? And the ripple effect it would have on your family, on your community, on your network. This program is what I had to do for myself when I was a single mom. And I didn't know what the hell was happening in my life. I chose joy when I could have been in straight up paralyzing fear. I chose joy when I didn't know how I was paying my bills. I did the things that people told me was crazy. I did the things that people said, this is not a good idea. Because I started to bet on myself. And when I started to figure this out and I started to share it with people and I started to see that it was repeatable, how can I not share this? Because you can really, honest to God, I swear to you with everything in my heart, you can be, do, or have anything you want in this life. And people aren't talking about this. They're not doing the work. But I swear it's possible. I'm doing it myself every day. And we'll get little snippets, right? We'll manifest a free coffee, or we'll manifest a parking spot, or, something will happen and we'll get glimpses. And that's the universe saying, yeah, keep going. You've got this. More momentum, keep going. But we like to tell ourselves a story like, oh, it's just a little thing. Your whole life can feel like magic when you bet on your heart, when you rebel against all those external conditions. And if that feels like a fit for you and you want to do this program with me, I would absolutely love to have you in it. So send me a private message if this feels like a fit, or comment below and I'm happy to connect with you. But I promise you, if nothing else in this training, I really, in my heart of hearts, this is what I hope for you. Please know that your brain is working on your behalf when you set it up to do so. Your energy and feeling good is the number one thing that should be your focus at all times, because it affects the way that you think, it affects the actions you take, and it affects the goals and results that you get. So, warrior to warrior, it's on early bird right now for $888, or payment plan is $222. The full price of the program is $1111 or $1333 if you do installments. That goes up tomorrow night, Saturday, the 11th at midnight. The doors will be open through next week. Early bird ends tomorrow. I would love to have you if you feel called. If you have questions, send me a message. In the meantime, thank you from the bottom of my heart for saying yes to this time with me. It is not something I take lightly. I loved having you guys here live. I love any of you that catch the replay. Let me know that you're here for the replay. It is an absolute honor and a privilege to be able to serve you and help all of us lock arms and do this journey together. I believe that connection and community is everything. I have so many things coming for this sacred community, Heart-Centered Rebel. So if somebody shared this with you outside of the container, please join us. And if you have anything that you want me to support you with, I do have 2 openings for one-on-one support if you're looking for that, which actually gives you warrior to warrior complimentary. So let me know if you're looking for that too. But I just want to say that I love you and I honor you, and I'm so grateful for the magical humans in my life in this container, because it is not by accident that we are connected. If this has been resonant with you, if this has been valuable to you, please share this with someone in your life that you think could benefit from it, or send me a message, comment below, let me know what your biggest takeaway was, because I would love to know. I am so grateful for you. I wish you the most amazing, beautiful weekend, and I am here for you, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.